As you inhale, as you breathe in the sacred prana, that sacred life force, feel also the power of that divine Mother Goddess. Feel her presence in you. As that breath comes in and carries the sacred life force with it, just become aware of the presence of that divine feminine in you, that power, that love, that presence, that nurturing. Feel that presence of the Mother Goddess in you. That power that is simultaneously fierce and full of unconditional love. And as you exhale, feel yourself exhaling and letting go. Just the way that we sink into the lap of the Mother. We may be carrying whatever stresses and strains or fears, anxieties. But when we get in the lap of the Mother, it all just dissolves. So as you exhale, just allow yourself to let go and sink into the arms of the Mother. As you inhale, feel her presence more and more, filling you. And as you exhale, allow yourself to just let go and sink into her arms and into her lap. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly open your eyes and lower your hands. So beautiful to be together with you all. Especially on this sacred final day of Navaratri. Tomorrow's Dashera, the day that we celebrate when Bhagwan Ram comes back to Ayodhya. But we also celebrate that defeat of the 10-headed evil demon king Ravan. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, but it's a very, very powerfully energetic time right now. So, beginning with a question that's come in from our audience from all over the world joining us through the internet. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. How do we overcome fear? From Bhatya Kanchan. The only way to overcome fear is through wisdom and faith. The wisdom part is really quite simple. The faith part requires a little bit more. So we'll start with the wisdom. The root of everything we fear is that I will die. We were speaking about this not so long ago. If you look at the things that we are afraid of, we're afraid of things that historically, like our ancestors, long ago ancestors, that were threats to them. We are afraid of lions and tigers and bears. We're afraid of heights. We're afraid of small, tight places. We're afraid of the things that are threats to our life. Ironically, we're not afraid of guns. I mean, if you look at what people develop phobias about, really paralyzing fears, snakes, these sorts of things that were real threats to our ancestors a long, long time ago. Our nervous system, our brain, our body, changes and evolves much, much, much slower than civilization does. So we're still reacting in that way from things that were threats then. Interestingly, not afraid of things that are threats now, like drugs or toxins in our food and water. I don't know anybody who's got a pesticide phobia, on a really deep level. Whereas actually we're much more likely to be injured or killed by a car or pesticides or guns than we are by lions or tigers or snakes or bears. But in any case, point is, all of the fears have one fundamental bottom line. If what I'm afraid of happens, I will die. A lion comes, a tiger comes, a bear comes, I will die. I fall off a high place, I will die. I get suffocated in a small place, I will die. Everything that we are afraid of, ends with I will die. Even if you look at things that plague most of our lives, what are we afraid of? Failure. Well, okay, you take it to its worst case scenario. Say someone's really wanting to ask for a raise at work, but they're afraid, right? And you're trying to encourage them. Oh, have courage. It's okay. Go to your boss. You've been there 10 years. You're a good worker. You're doing a good job. You deserve a raise. Go in and ask. But they're afraid. Now, if you look at that fear and you take it to its bottom line, the fear goes something like this. I will ask my boss for the raise. My boss will get angry and fire me. Okay, let's say it happens. Your boss gets angry and fires you. Then what? Then I can't find another job. Okay, say that happens. Then what? Then I have no money. Okay, say that happens. Then what? Well, then I'm homeless. Okay, say you're homeless. Then what happens? Well, then eventually I die. Like if I have no money for food, I have no money for anything, I'm going to die. If you take anything you're afraid of, I will die is always the end. Not always physically. I'm afraid of something happening to my loved one. Okay, say something does happen to your loved one. Then what? Then I'll be all alone. Okay, say you're all alone. Then what? Well, then there'll be no one to take care of me. Okay, there's no one to take care of you. Then what? Well, then I'll die. Right? A lot of us on a very deep level have that sense that somehow, if that person weren't there, I would die. Either physically because I need them to care for me, or just I actually would dissolve and cease to exist because of the lack of their presence in my life. The other way we think we're going to die is from humiliation. Public speaking, number one fear on the planet, ironically. People are more afraid of public speaking than guns. But why? No one actually thinks they're going to literally die on a stage. But the fear of embarrassment is so much that we literally say, I will die of embarrassment. An ego death. So what we're afraid of is death. Death of my physical body, death of my emotional stability, death of my ego. So what's the way to work with this? When I say gyan, wisdom, the way to work with it is very simple. You are going to die. We're all going to die. Afraid of it, not afraid of it. With your loved one, without your loved one, with the raise, without the raise. We're all going to die. It's the one non-negotiable on earth. Nothing you do is going to prevent it. Each one of us is a day closer to death every day. And so the way to work with most fear is actually quite literally staring death in the face. Really coming to the place of awareness. This body's going to die. It's made of matter. That's what matter does. It's created, it's sustained for a while, and then it disintegrates. Whether you're a leaf, a tree, a birthday cake, a human being, whatever it is. Things in nature, food items, bodies, I mean, they're created, they exist for some time. Luckily, we live longer than a birthday cake or a leaf. But ultimately, everything that is made of the 5 elements is going to fall apart. It's going to disintegrate. It's going to go back to the elements. Whether it's a leaf falling, a cake going moldy, a human body disintegrating. And this is why the awareness of death is actually one of the most important, non-negotiable aspects of a spiritual life. Otherwise, everything's an illusion. Otherwise, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that, I'm afraid of this, because somehow, if I don't talk to my boss about a raise, if I don't public speak, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, then I can somehow avert the inevitable from happening. You cannot. So the only way to overcome that fear is through looking at death and realizing that you are not that which dies. Today in the Arati, Puja Swamiji was speaking so beautifully about abhayam, fearlessness. This is the core message that Bhagwan Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Gita. Ma shucha. Do not fear, do not worry. Why? Because you're not the body. Arjuna says to Bhagwan Krishna, what do you mean don't fear? I could die. And this is one of my very favorite parts of the Gita and one of my very favorite lessons, because remember that Krishna is God. He knows what's going to happen. He's not on the edge of his chair like the rest of us are. He knows what's going to happen. He's God. Through Arjuna, we get to see his full form. But we know also. So he could very easily say to Arjuna, don't worry. Kuch nahi hoga aapko. Nothing's going to happen to you. You will lose beloved family members, but nothing will happen to you. You will not die, I promise. But he doesn't say that. He does not assure Arjuna that he is safe. Instead, he says, yeah, you might. But you are not the one who dies. You are not the body. Neither can you take someone else's life. You can take their body. You cannot take their soul. Nor can you lose yours. You are that which is eternal. You are the unborn one. Meaning you've always existed. You're not going to die. Who you really are is not going to die. And so that's the gyan, the wisdom. That's the only way to overcome fear. Otherwise, this teaching of abhayam, fearlessness, it's meaningless. Arjuna is standing in a battlefield. What do you mean fearlessness? How can you be fearless? Everybody, you're outnumbered, outarmed. How can you be fearless? Only two ways. Either God tells you, don't worry, you've got this one in the bag, but he didn't do that. Or when you realize that no matter what happens, the truth of you isn't going anywhere. And that's where wisdom, real wisdom, is the answer to fear. But the other piece, faith. Faith is that which you could say sustains us until we have the real wisdom. And that's just the faith in God. That's the faith that I may not yet realize that I'm not the body. I may not yet realize I am soul and spirit. But I can develop a faith and a love for the divine, for the universe, for the intelligence in the universe, that allows me to know that everything is going to be exactly as it should be. To know that the universe is intelligent, that there's a wisdom, that there's an order, that there's a divine plan, that that which is unfolding is exactly that which should unfold. And that the only thing really to be afraid of is not living. Right? Last night I told the story of the basketball games and the gorilla in the middle of it. That's what to be afraid of, is missing life. We're so focused on the number of days in our life, but not very focused at all about the amount of life in our days. The thing to be afraid of is, oh my God, I am dying, but am I living? That's what should keep you up at night. Not, oh my God, I could die, but oh my God, am I living? Am I really living? And I don't mean that it means you cash in all your money and buy a, one-way ticket somewhere on the planet and, for the great adventure. That may be your thing, but may not be. It's not most of our thing. But it means living every minute, every moment. Doesn't have to be on some far-off mountain or island. Doesn't have to be with a backpack on. Doesn't have to look like an adventure necessarily. But it's just about showing up to every minute, every moment, every opportunity of your life. Am I loving? Am I finding myself in awe of nature, of the creation? Am I connecting with others in love? That's what we need to make sure we're doing. Am I experiencing the divine? At the end of the day, when you die, well, the body dies, but the soul lives, right? We've talked about this almost every night. It's the soul, this individual soul that is on its journey and that will take another body. So the question is, there's only one aspect of you that's there with you forever. That when you're in that moment when you die, that moment when you're leaving your body, leaving your relationships, leaving your bank account, leaving your possessions, there's only one aspect of you that's your travel partner, your travel companion for the rest of the journey. And that's your soul. And so the way to overcome the fear of that journey is get to know your travel companion. Get to know the one you are traveling with. So that when that moment arises, instead of the fear of, oh my God, what am I leaving behind? It's a very familiar hand you are grabbing onto, arms you are falling into for the journey after the body. And until then, just allow yourself to have beautiful faith. Whatever form or name or way or path you connect with the divine, have faith. That same incredible energy that enables the sun to rise every day is that same energy that's taking care of us. So we have faith. Other questions? Any question? Yes.
Hi. How do you allow your body to soften and relax when it's finally receiving love and compassion from the outside world and including yourself?
Beautiful. Isn't it tragically ironic that most of our intuitive, instinctive, somatic, physiological response to love is we tighten and contract. It's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We physically tighten and contract. We emotionally tighten and contract. Think about when someone says to you, "Wow, you are really wonderful. You are so smart or kind or generous," or however someone is praising you. What do most of us do? "Oh, no, it's nothing," right? We push it away. No, yeah, it wasn't really me, it was really this. Well, it was really nothing. Oh, don't say that. We push it away. Here the universe is showering us with love. And we're like, not so close. Stay away. We finally find ourselves in a situation of being given that love that we crave for. And we contract. We contract physically, mentally. The mind says, I don't trust it. It can't be real. If they really knew me, they wouldn't love me. There must be some mistake. When is the other shoe going to drop? This won't last. I don't deserve it. And so we contract against it. It's a tragically common situation for most of us, until and unless a relationship is a very long time relationship. I mean, eventually, if you've been married for decades, I think you allow yourself to kind of believe that that person might love you. But in the beginning stages of anything that feels like love, romantic love, deep friendship, appreciation, it's very uncomfortable, even when we work with it. One of my dearest friends, who I seem to actually, I realize, bring up a lot in Satsang, maybe because he's so brilliant and wonderful, but one of my dearest friends is a brilliant philosopher and writer named Dr. Bruce Lipton. And typically when I bring him up, I talk about his research, but tonight I'm bringing him up because he is by far the most effusively, verbally loving person I've ever met in my life. When he sees you, it's all just, oh, you are so wonderful, you are this, you are that, I appreciate you so much. And even as someone who has 27 years of meditation and spiritual practice and deep ecstatic experiences of oneness with the divine under her belt, I mean, all of that. Even I find myself getting uncomfortable. I don't want to. And every time I'm with them, I practice just dropping into it. But I notice even in myself that reaction, not a physical tensing up, I love to hug him, but my emotional reaction is, oh yes, so are you. Oh yes, and immediately my mind is going, what kinds of nice things can I say about him? Rather than just allowing myself to feel it. That there's this immediate instinctive response that we have, even with so much spiritual work, to somehow not want to let in that just pure love, appreciation, all of that. So the way to do it with the body is with the breath. The slower and the deeper you can make your breath, the softer the body becomes. And you can actually go through a very deep meditative practice of actually releasing the parts of the body. First you tighten them, then you release them. You can do it lying down, and lying down is usually the best way. But you just begin with your toes, scrunch them all up, and then let them go. Tighten up the whole foot. Let it go. Tighten the calves. Let them go. And it's just a beautiful practice of allowing the body to really soften and open. And then you'll start to be able to do that in the world. It's about intention in the breath and a deep inhalation and then an even deeper exhalation. But the mental tightening, the emotional tightening, takes a little bit more. And it takes practice. The breath, again, is a fantastic ally. It works not just with the body, but with the mind. But it really takes the power of intention, of literally just saying to yourself, receive. Receive. In the same way that when you meditate and the mind wanders and you just bring it back, and it wanders and you bring it back, in the same way, you have to just say to yourself, remind yourself, receive, receive, receive. And if you find that there's really some kind of a deep belief that you are somehow not worthy of that, or that you can't trust, then work with that. It's worth your time and energy. Work with that. Why don't you think you can trust? Who has hurt you in the past? Whom you haven't actually fully forgiven? Due to which you're holding on to this fear. And then we very consciously realize that opening our hearts in love and the ability to do that is so much more powerfully beneficial than protecting ourselves from hurt. Because protecting ourselves from hurt just suffocates us. Quite literally, we end up literally suffocated. We think we're protecting ourselves, but we kill ourselves. And so we open our hearts, knowing that, I might get hurt. I might get hurt. But it's worth it. Because loving is what we're here for. Loving others, loving ourselves, allowing ourselves to be loved. But it's just a practice. If you've done yoga, if you practice holding an asana for a long time, what happens with most of us, and if you're a yoga practitioner, you'll understand this. Imagine that you get yourself into a pose. Imagine you get into Trikonasana, let's say, triangle pose. And immediately you go as far as you can. You stretch as best as you can. And you think you are at the extreme of your stretch. Now, if you come up right away, that will be the extreme of your stretch. But if you actually hold the asana for a few moments and allow yourself to deeply inhale and deeply exhale, you'll find in a few breaths that actually you can stretch a little more. You can go just a little deeper. Look at that, amazing. And if you hold it for another minute or two, as you breathe, just with the breath, it's not that the muscles are loosening up so fast. It's just that you are dropping into it. Someone told me something recently that I found so interesting. And I cannot guarantee it is true because I don't have the medical evidence, but I believe it's true because I trust the person who told me. They said that if someone is under anesthesia, Let's say you've got someone on the operating table for some kind of an operation. You've got them under anesthesia. You can actually, no matter how physically tight their muscles may be, you can actually fold someone in half. Imagine doing like Paschimottanasana or Uttanasana. Your legs are straight, you're bending over, your nose to your knees, your forehead to the knees. For most of us, that's really hard to get it down nicely. She said that when people are under anesthesia, not only can you do it, but when they wake up, they have no pain. If most of us went to a yoga class with a teacher who kind of sat on our backs while we were bending over our legs and pushed us down, they might be able to get our nose down to our knees, but oh my God, would we be sore afterwards. We might actually need to go to a chiropractor. We might actually have injuries. But even if not, we would be really sore. And she said that they've done this research that shows that when someone's under anesthesia, you do it, they wake up, they have no memory, there's no soreness. Which means only one thing. Because the only thing anesthesia does is quiets the brain. It's not a muscle relaxant. It quiets the brain. It doesn't numb the body. That's a local anesthesia. A general anesthesia, it's the brain. What it means is that so much of the tightness in our body is actually due to fear in our mind. We think, oh, I've got tight hamstrings, I've got tight hips, I've got tight this. But if you can do it under anesthesia and not be sore, what it means is the problem isn't the muscles, it means the problem is the mind. And I loved that. And so we use the breath, we use our power of meditation, and we just slowly, slowly allow that body to soften. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank you for this beautiful satsang and our presence over here for family. And I have a question. The other day I went to a handicapped children's place and I was in tears.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand, sometimes I find God is unjust. Because as we have been given an opportunity to be connected with Him, while these children are born, and they have not the same right to do their karmas. Can you explain why they are like that and we are normal, given the opportunity to connect with the divine?
Sure. So, I'll begin with a story that goes back almost 30 years from when I was in graduate school, when I was getting my PhD in psychology. And one of my professors, she was a part-time professor. She spent the rest of her time working with children who were dying of AIDS. And she was a very devout Christian. Very, very devout. And her husband was actually a chaplain in the hospital. So they were very devout believers in God, worshipers of God. And in class one day, someone asked her, how is it possible for you to believe in a divine plan and therefore a divine planner and spend your days with children who are dying due to no fault of their own of AIDS? And she said something that I loved then and have held so deeply for the last almost 30 years. She said, I never doubt the presence of a divine plan or the presence of a divine planner. She said, but I do sometimes find myself asking God whether maybe there couldn't be a better plan. And I loved that. Because it was yes and yes. Yes, it's perfect, and yes, even the devout humans amongst us do find ourselves saying to God, really? Are you sure? Like, are you sure this is the best way? Now, going back, though, to the case of the handicapped children you speak about, I would differ with you on your assessment of us as the lucky ones able to connect with God and them as the unlucky ones who aren't able. Absolutely, we are incredibly blessed and incredibly fortunate to have the use of all of our limbs, to be able to see, to be able to hear. If you have nothing else to be grateful for, there's your gratitude practice every morning. Thank you, God, for my legs that work. Thank you for my arms that work. Thank you for my eyes that work. Thank you for my brain that works. Thank you for my organs that work. But people who are handicapped in any way are no less able to connect with God. And in fact, I will tell you from my personal experience, those who are differently abled, we say, not handicapped, because you realize they are in so many ways just differently abled, and in many cases better abled than we are in so many ways, to actually find joy and gratitude in life. I have heard vastly more people whose limbs all work, whose eyes work, whose ears work, who have an abundance of blessings. I have heard vastly more of them lament and complain about their lot in life than I have heard from children in wheelchairs, or from children on prosthetics, or from children missing limbs, or from children who are blind. Those are the ones who I always feel like, oh my God, we have so much to learn from them. In the face of such trouble, they shine. Eyes that can't even see sparkle and shine. We just, not even 2 weeks ago, when we were up on our yatra in Gangotri and Yamunotri, we've just adopted a school of about 50 blind children up in the Himalayas. And we're going to be expanding it. And these were not children who on any level felt like they had been somehow deprived or cheated, or they got the short end of the deal. These were children who were vibrant and ecstatic and beautiful and so full of love and life and joy. And I have seen that with so many children who are handicapped. Every time we do a prosthetic limbs camp here and people come, I'm amazed. Because the ones who are here are not only handicapped, but they're poor. Because if they weren't poor, they would have already gone to the hospital and gotten a prosthetic limb, or gotten their wheelchair, or gotten whatever they needed. If they're here for our free camp, it's because they couldn't afford the wheelchair or the canes or the prosthetic limbs. And the smiles on their faces, they put the rest of us to shame. They really do. These are kids who are full of gratitude and love. So why are they in that situation karmically? Well, the only thing I can say is it's not a punishment. It's definitely a karmic repercussion. There is something from the past that has created this in the moment. Not just from that for them, but of their families, all of those of us whose lives intersect with theirs. but it's not a punishment. Health and wealth, success, these are not rewards. An illness and poverty, these are not punishments. We're each given the situation we're given because that situation will be the most conducive for us to take the next step on our own karmic journey. Not because God likes us and is happy with us, so we've been blessed. And God was punishing them, so they've been not blessed. They are in that situation because it is the most conducive for the lessons they have to learn. We had a young girl here in Satsang a few months ago who, oh my God, was so extraordinarily beautiful. With her, and she was in a wheelchair. She was very differently abled in a lot of ways, not just physically. And she taught every one of us in here such a powerful lesson about faith in God and gratitude and love and joy. So, rather than wondering what their karma was, let us ask ourselves what our dharma is, which is to help them. They're helping us by teaching us a lesson about gratitude and blessings, which is actually a much more powerful and important gift than whatever we can give them. But we remember through them that we have a dharma to serve with whatever time and energy and resources we have. And so if you've been touched by them, rather than wondering why the universe didn't give them what they should have had, ask yourself, what can I give them? What can I do for them? Because that's why your karmic thread has woven together with theirs at this moment. Was for both of you to gain something. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. Looking so forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Sorry we were late in starting tonight, but I hope that you were all with us in the Ganga Arti that ran late, so you were at least with us down there singing and dancing. And after dinner, we invite you to join us for the Shabri Ram Leela on the Ghat that goes from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's the beautiful rendition of the Ramayana with singing and dancing from our wonderful sisters and brothers from so many parts of India who have come together. So we invite you to join us for that as well. And so much love to you all.